My name is Mr. K. Sardonicus. Welcome to my vault of horror. I'm sorry it took me so long to return. I've been taking care of a lot of different other content, and I have so much stuff in store in the future for us together in the future. So I've been working really hard on that stuff. Today, we're going to be doing a special top 10 list again, and this time we're going to do something that's been going around on YouTube for a while now, and now I finally wanted to dip my toes in it. Today, we are going to be diving into my top 10 Non Dracula Vampire Films. So, before we get into it, for those that are still here, thank you for staying. And for the new people, welcome back. So now that we got that figured out, let's get started. Now, before we get into the blood sucking, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what your favorite vampire films are in the comments that aren't Dracula. Let's discuss this stuff because vampire films, they're becoming more and more frequent these days, especially in indie films. You'll see a few of them in here. But you'll be seeing also some good classics, and I promise you, you'll be very, very pleased by my number one. And I'm excited for it because this is a long time coming, and especially number one is literally my favorite vampire film of all time, and you will find out very soon. So, let's get into it right now.
What would you like to confess?
God, forgive me.
Now, number 10, this is a very underrated one. It doesn't get talked about enough. This is The Addiction, starring Lily Taylor, Christopher Walken, and a couple of other under-the-radar stars that are just fantastic. See, the thing is that The Addiction revolves around the main character played by Lily Taylor. And she is an addict, like a drug addict. Well, when she's on the streets at one point, she gets attacked and bitten by a female vampire. And so Lily Taylor's character is slowly becoming a vampire as the movie goes on. And she meets other vampires, such as Christopher Walken's character, who teaches her the ways of being a vampire in this city. And it is a phenomenal fucking film. It's shot in black and white, and it's a 90s classic. And I know it doesn't get talked about enough. So I gotta just give Lily Taylor, Christopher Walken, and the rest of the crew and the director props, because this is literally one of the best vampire films I've seen personally. And I first saw this film in after-school film class years ago. And it made me appreciate vampire films so much more, especially when it comes to like vampire films in the 90s, where they were actually thinking about what is the most like interesting or insane premise to do in the 90s. Because the 80s were all about bringing back the classic vampires, where the 90s were trying to make like that grungy like almost like 90s The Cure type shit. So, seriously, The Addiction is fantastic, and that's why it's my number 10. Number 9 is our one and only book adaptation in this list. And that says a lot because I do enjoy Interview with a Vampire, but not really that much. It's good. It's a masterpiece, but it's not my favorite. So, number 9 is a film from, I believe, 2010, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. This film adapted the book so well. I remember reading the book in middle school and high school before the movie was even made, and I'm like, this is immediately going to be a fucking great movie once they make one. And lo and behold, I believe it was 2010 or 2011. Either way, it was made. It's been out for a long time. It's underrated, and I think that it is one of my favorite vampire films of the last, I believe, 20 or so years. Because it was such an interesting premise. And, it made Abraham Lincoln even more of a badass before he became president. Like, who hasn't been, like, a teenager with, like, a huge imagination thinking, what if George Washington or Abraham fucking Lincoln killed vampires? Because vampires are something that's been around since the dawn of time. So why not do a vampire story revolving around, like, one of the best presidents to have ever lived? It's so awesome. And they actually, like, not only did the movie Lincoln cast Daniel Day-Lewis as a serious Abraham Lincoln perfectly, but the actor that plays Abraham Lincoln, the actors that play Abraham Lincoln throughout the movie, throughout parts of the movie, because it time jumps throughout the film, it worked. They did it perfectly there too. I can't believe it. They did this right, and that's why it's my number 9. It is that fucking good, and it's a fun time. It has a little bit of scares, a little bit of humor, and it's just a badass fucking action movie with vampires, and that's why it's my number 9.
Blade.
Number 8, I gotta give it to the Daywalker. The man that brought Marvel to the fucking theaters for the first time in 1998. I'm giving it to my boy Wesley Snipes in Blade. Not Blade. Look, as much as I love Blade 2 and how it amped up the special effects, the vampires, the action, and I have a guilty pleasure for Blade Trinity. The original Blade is my personal favorite Blade movie, and that's because I don't know, maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's because I saw the first Blade before I saw the other Blade movies. And it's just... Or maybe maybe it's just the 90s vibe to it, where, you know, since Blade 2 came out in the 2000s, it felt more like a 2000s movie. I don't know, but all I know is that fucking, the cast is amazing. Wesley Snipes will always be the best Blade, in my opinion. I'm glad he came back in, spoiler alert, he's back in Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine. So, Wesley Snipes got to have his last big hurrah as Blade, which made me happy, you know? Because we've been trying to get a new Blade movie off the fucking ground for how fucking long since they've tried to announce that shit? At this point, fucking cancel it, because Wesley Snipes, he said bon voyage in Deadpool and Wolverine, and actually ended up kicking major ass. He literally, I don't want to spoil any more of the film, but let's just say Blade fans will be very happy. But yes, Blade, the original Blade, is my favorite. It is dark, is gory. The Blade is so badass. And the female companion that he has, she isn't a liability. She is able to hold her own. She makes a fucking weapon for Blade to use. She tries to find a cure. She is literally like one of the coolest female 90s characters, you know? And you have a lot of people out there that say that there's not good, you know, that back then there was not good female representation and shit. And that's not true. I mean, she's literally proof of that. Like, she's almost like the Ellen Ripley in the Blade movie, Blade franchise, except she was only in the first movie. So, I will never understand when people say crap like that, because, you know, I mean, there's a lot of good female representation in action films, horror films, and everything. It's just some of us are too blind to see that. But Blade literally was like my personal favorite Marvel film for the longest time. And kind of still is, despite not being in the MCU. And I have fallen out of love for the MCU, so, you know, having a love for the Marvel movie that kicked off all Marvel movies, I gotta give Blade props, because it's a close place in my heart when it comes to Blade.
This is fantastic!
Vamp, a comedy with bite.
Now, number 7 is going to divide a lot of people, because people would be like, why isn't From Dusk Till Dawn in this spot? It's because I got to give it to the movie that did it before them, which was Vamp from the 80s. This film is freaky, sexy, and hilarious at the same time, which is exactly what I like in my vampire movies, as you'll see in my number 1. And Vamp, you know, I know that From Dusk Till Dawn gets a lot more love than Vamp, but Vamp did it first. And Vamp was the one that I watched first. And, you know, I love the actors in this film. And, Grace Jones as Katrina, she is intimidating and just sexy and scary, and all the vampires look freaky as hell. It is absolutely incredible. It really is. And I seriously think that this film doesn't get enough love, and I think it deserves to be at this spot because it is that fucking good.
Give me the strength to save her soul!
We need to finish this!
Now, at number 6, we have a 2021 horror comedy that stars Barbara Crampton, one of my favorites, and also stars CM Punk, Bonnie Aarons, and Larry Fessenden. And this film is called Jacob's Wife. This film was relatable, I'm sure, to many people. Probably not really myself, because I'm not a married man, nor am I religious. But I know people that have been in strenuous relationships because one person feels one way about their lives, hi baby, and the other is set in their ways, in their beliefs, which is exactly what Barbara Crampton and her husband Larry Fessenden is dealing with. Barbara Crampton gets bitten by a master vampire played by Bonnie Aarons, and she is literally draining the entire town. And her husband is a priest and is literally having to cover up her fuck ups. And it is hilarious. I'm sure very relatable to a lot of people, and is an absolutely fantastic horror comedy that I definitely recommend because, you don't find a lot of them out there anymore. This is like on the same frame level of comedy and like kind of like relatableness as like maybe Fright Night or The Lost Boys. And you'll see soon about Fright Night, promise you. But anyways, that's why Jacob's Wife is definitely at my number 6. At number 5, I gotta be honest, I kind of lied earlier. This is another book adaptation, but it's a comic book adaptation, so it kind of doesn't count. This is 30 Days of Night. This film has the main character, played by Josh Hartnett, and the rest of his crew having to fight off a bunch of vampires. The lead, played by Danny Houston, and these vampires are taking advantage of the fact that in Alaska, once a year, there's a 30-day nightfall. The sun doesn't fucking rise. And those vampires know that they can take advantage of that shit, and it's chow time. I'm telling you, you have never seen a more vicious vampire than in 30 Days of Night. And I've read all of the comic books, even the newer ones. They're vicious. They're even more vicious in the comic books, I will say that. But this movie does it perfectly well. And I just seriously think this, if you're looking for like a serious, no comedy, full stop scares, blood, gore, everything, this is the one to go to. if you're not looking for any kind of comedy in your vampire movie, and you want straight, pure fucking tension with over-the-top special effects and just incredible gore and just amazing atmosphere, you feel the cold, you feel the dark, you feel these people having that fear that they may not survive because there are these vampires that literally will not go fucking down and are tearing the town apart. I'm telling you, this is my number 5 for a reason, and it's just gonna get better.
Near dark. Pray for daylight. The night has its price.
Number 4 is another 80s classic. And this one is not talked about very often unless you're a hardcore horror fan and you love vampires. It stars Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen, and a couple of other actors that I can't remember off the top of my head. But this is Near Dark. And I seriously think that it's one of the most unique versions of vampires out there. They don't turn into bats. They do not have weaknesses to crosses or holy water. But they are immortal. They cannot touch sunlight, and they drink blood. And I absolutely love it. Bill Paxton, he steals the entire fucking show with his vampire character Severn, and like the entire cast is absolutely incredible to begin with. And you really feel for the main character who gets forcibly turned into a vampire. He doesn't want this. He does not want to be turned into a vampire. He's forced into this. And this group of vampires is pretty much taking him hostage and, just wanting him to be a part of their group even though he doesn't want to. I gotta tell you, it's amazing. It's a great fucking film. And it hardly ever gets talked about. It's never acknowledged. Hardly ever fucking acknowledged. But people that do acknowledge it, I gotta give them props. Because Near Dark is my number 4.
You know what's wrong. You don't give it up. You can't. Forever. Forever. Forever.
It's gonna be my masterpiece.
Now, my number 3 is going to throw some people off. But I seriously defend this film because it is that fucking good. And it's one of the most unique vampire films that I've ever seen. And one of the most unique ways of vampirism that I've ever seen in a film. This is a film called Bliss from 2019, directed by Joe Begos. Now, this film has an amazing cast, but the main character, the actress played by Dora Medicine, is electric. She holds this entire film together with her bare hands because she's the one that ends up diving into this world of being just high as fuck and craving blood, and she's an artist that's about to lose everything, and it's a struggle for her. I can't imagine what it's like to struggle in an area that she lives in where everything is so fucking expensive and the only way you're able to get money is by being an artist. Being an artist is tough fucking work. And so having inspiration by taking drugs, it happens. But she takes this particular type of cocaine or something called Diablo. And then she immediately starts dealing with vampirism. She blacks out, and once she gets high, she's just a straight up bloodsucker. And then she continues to paint her magnum opus. And I just don't want to spoil too much of it for you. But let me just tell you, Bliss is a must watch. Especially if you want a good psychedelic vampire film that is modern and is absolutely fucking phenomenal. I'm telling you, Bliss will always be my number 3.
Academy Award nominees John Malkovich
I will finish my picture.
and Willem Dafoe.
This is hardly your picture any longer.
Shadow of the Vampire.
How dare you destroy my photographer? Why not the script girl? I'll eat her later.
Now, number 2 is going to throw other people off as well. Now, I was thinking about putting Robert Eggers' Nosferatu at number 2. And then I was also thinking about putting Nosferatu Symphony of Horror at number 2. But, oh well, then there was also Nosferatu the Vampire from the 1970s. But there was a 4th film from the 2000s starring Willem Dafoe and John Malkovich. And it's supposedly the origin story of the original Nosferatu film. And that is Shadow of the Vampire. Holy crap. This film is absolutely incredible. And Willem Dafoe playing the actor that plays, I forget his name off the top of my head. You know, and I should know, but I know that he plays the character Count Orlok. But he plays not only Count Orlok, he plays the actor who played Count Orlok. Willem Dafoe does. John Malkovich is the director of the film. It is an incredible fucking film. It is beautiful. It is freaky. It is intense. The acting is superb on every single level. And, you know, I mean, it was just one of those films that I saw in film class and just immediately fell in love with because I do love the original film. Oh, I just remembered the name of the actor who played Count Orlok in the original film. Max Schreck. And that's who Willem Dafoe plays. Max Schreck. But as a vampire. Because there was rumors going around at a time because they didn't have to use very much makeup back in the original Nosferatu to even make Max Schreck look the way he does. So there was a rumor going around that's already debunked. So it's like, it's not true. But there was a rumor going around that he actually was a fucking vampire. And so this movie, Shadow of the Vampire, actually used that premise as a film. So I absolutely thought it was genius. And I love this film. You know, it is actually my personal favorite Nosferatu film. The second one being the Robert Eggers Nosferatu. So I gotta give it to Shadow of the Vampire, and it's my number 2.
Fright Night. If you love being scared, this could be the night of your life. Fright Night.
And my number one, you know it, you love it. It's from 1985, directed by Tom Holland, starring Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, Amanda Bierce. Oh God, I'm trying to get all the names right. Anyways, you know what it is. It's Fright Night from 1985. Oh my God. This film has been my favorite vampire film since I was a young kid. I first saw this movie when I was 6 years old on Cinemax back in the day. It was just randomly on at my grandma and grandpa's house when I was a kid. And I couldn't stop loving this film since then. Chris Sarandon as Jerry Dandridge. He is the epitome of humorous, sexy, vicious, scary. He's the whole package. If I was ever to be turned into a vampire, which will never happen, it's fiction, but if vampires existed and I was a vampire, I would want to be just like Jerry Dandridge, Chris Sarandon, Jerry Dandridge. I will always have my gripes with the 2010 remake. Fucking hate it. But I do have love for the 80s part 2 of the original Fright Night, which I quite enjoyed. But the original Fright Night, it's got great effects, like hilarious dialogue, great acting. The scares are great. The humor lands every time. And you just want these kids to survive. You just want them to be able to fight these vampires off, fight Jerry Dandridge off. Sorry about that. And just live happily ever after. But, you know, this film, it not only made films, it made comic books, it made a couple novels, and it has a fan base that is upon the millions, if not billions, by now. You know? I mean, it came out in 1985, so it's been out for quite a long time. So it's like, you know, this film is timeless. And I know some people prefer The Lost Boys. I'm sorry, I can't get into The Lost Boys that much. This was my favorite vampire movie of all time. And it'll literally be my favorite 80s vampire movie of all time. It is timeless. And I will always defend it. And that's why I have this shirt on today. Was because I love Fright Night. And I always will love Fright Night. And I will always defend it to being my number one Non Dracula vampire movie. And that is it. That is my top 10 Non Dracula vampire movies. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, comment what your top 10 vampire movies are. I will be doing a top 10 Dracula films in the near future. I don't know when. I'm going to try my best to get as much content out as possible on YouTube this month, but I promise you I'm going to be very, very swamped most of this summer. But you will be informed by all my content and everything. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers before I head to these conventions in June and July. And I hope that I'll be able to see you guys there. I'm going to be showing below right now what these conventions are. And if you're in the Oklahoma area around these times, definitely check them out. Until next time, I'll see you then.